Hey guys, Victoria Paxton here. Thanks for stopping by my YouTube channel. Hi. Okay, so don't mind the hair. It air dried. It's doing what it wants to do, feeling free. It's a shitty, stormy, rainy night, so. Okay, so let's get started, you guys. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's free. Okay, so Monique Daniels was born. Oh, time out. Let me preface this by saying this is probably going to be a longer one. There's like a lot of information. So grab a drink and sit back. All right. Monique Daniels was born on June 16th, 1976, and was the oldest of 6 children, 3 siblings and 2 half-siblings. By all accounts, the Daniels household appeared to be a less than happy home. In 1992, Monique and her siblings were living with her mother Candace and stepfather Charles, better known as Chuck Daniels, in Moore, Oklahoma. Chuck was a sergeant in the Air Force, and Candace was also in the military. Years prior, Candace divorced Monique's biological father, who was sexually abusive and would later be thrown in prison for sex offenses. However, little is known about him. It's probably for the best. Candace's marriage to Chuck wasn't much better. According to their children, the couple fought often and were physically and verbally abusive to one another and to the kids. On June 2nd, 1992, a neighbor claimed to have seen 15-year-old Monique loading clothes into a blue Chevrolet pickup truck driven by an unidentified Caucasian male. On this particular day, Monique's mother was on a choir trip with a couple of her siblings, Angelique and Brian, and her stepfather took her other siblings, Andrew and Charlie Jr., on an impromptu fishing trip. No one would ever see Monique again. In addition, Monique's disappearance wouldn't be reported to authorities for almost 2 years. What? This should be good. According to her parents, their reasoning behind not reporting Monique as missing was because she had run away from home and assumed that she would come back. Monique had run away from home months earlier after she became pregnant, and her parents forced her to have an abortion, but her best friend convinced her to return home. Monique's Aunt Leslie discovered that a report had never been filed when 6 months after Monique's disappearance, Leslie attended to contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and have them add Monique to their database. Candace told Leslie that she would get the police report, but she never followed up. Candace and Chuck made it appear to all as if they respected their daughter's decision to run away. Yeah, sure, Jan. They wouldn't report her missing for 2 years, and only after Monique's sister Angelique ran away. You guys, dysfunctional family. Upon returning home from the choir trip, Upon returning home from the choir trip that Candace, Angelique, and Brian were on, Chuck would simply tell them, "She's gone again." Angelique would later mention that the house, which was normally kept clean, was a complete mess. Beer cans and cigarette butts were lying out, and there was an empty pregnancy test box sitting on the bathroom counter. Wow, how appropriate. He had to make it look like. Yeah. Roughly 1 week after Aunt Leslie's inquiry, the Daniels family received a phone call and a couple of letters, supposedly from Monique, postmarked Dallas, Texas. The family had been informed that Monique was now married and gave birth to a daughter named Chelsea, and she and her husband and child are currently living in Alaska, but frequently traveled for his job. Relatives were suspicious and asked the police to analyze the handwriting in the letters and see if it was really hers. The day before Candace was to bring them to the police for examination, the letters, along with some CDs and a boombox, were supposedly stolen in a burglary at the Daniels house. Yeah, sure. That's what they wanted to steal. Letters. Gotcha. While Chuck claimed that their home was much more peaceful without Monique, life would not get much easier for the Daniels family. In January of 94, Angelique ran away from home to live with her aunt in Michigan. When she left, unlike Monique, Candace and Chuck reported Angelique missing immediately. Of course they did. As soon as she arrived at her aunt's house, she filed a criminal complaint against her parents alleging physical and mental abuse, to which Candace and Chuck later pleaded no contest. Angelique also admitted to police that Chuck had made her write the letters and fabricate the phone call that were supposed to be from Monique. Chuck even drove her to Texas specifically for the postmark on the letters. Chuck admitted that the allegations by Angelique were true. You guys, according to Chuck, Candace had become suicidal in the wake of Monique's disappearance and attempted to convince Candace that her eldest daughter was safe and happy. After finally filing a missing persons report on Monique, Chuck and Candace were asked to take a polygraph test, and they both declined. Wonder why. 2 decades later, in 2013, Monique's brother Andrew would offer more information on that fateful day. According to Andrew, Chuck and Monique had been fighting earlier in the day. Chuck suddenly announced that he was taking Andrew and Charlie Jr. fishing in the rain. Before leaving, Andrew claims he said goodbye to Monique through a crack in her bedroom door where he thought he saw her sitting on the floor, not moving and not speaking. Charlie Jr. claims she hugged him goodbye. Oddly, the three left for their fishing trip without their fishing poles. Chuck and the boys drove in one direction for 2 hours, stopped at a fast food restaurant, then drove straight back home. Chuck parked his car in the garage where he told the boys to wait inside the car. They waited inside the car for their dad for 1 hour. When the boys were permitted back in the house, Chuck rushed them in, forbidding them to look around the bathroom. Chuck proceeded to tell them that he was going to search for Monique, and he locked them in their bedroom for 2 friggin' days. You heard me right. He locked them in their bedroom for 2 days. During their confinement, Charles took one of his other sons for a ride in his truck in the middle of the night. His son recalls seeing an oil barrel in the back of the truck, but he didn't know what was contained in it. Before long, the Daniels family was forbidden from talking about Monique. Unbelievable. Chuck and Candace were determined to remove any trace of their eldest daughter from their lives. Photos of her were taken down and replaced with new family photos. Isn't that nice? All traces of Monique, having lived in the Daniels home, vanished. When questioned about their other children's allegations, Chuck and Candace deny everything, claiming that Angelique and Andrew are unstable and have substance abuse issues. Okay. They now live in Florida and refuse to make any other statements about their daughter. Prior to ending up in Florida, they would move to Germany. Coincidentally, Chuck had gotten a military transfer to a new base out there after Angelique and her aunt appeared on a show, Current Affair, to discuss the case. Yeah, you guys. So I was able to connect with Monique, but let me start by saying it doesn't take a psychic to know that the stepdad murdered his stepdaughter. Monique came through. I explained who I was, and immediately she cut me off. You know, she's like this vibrant young girl, teenager, and she cut me off and said, "Can you pass messages on to my loved ones? Can you tell my sister something?" And I was like, "Of course, yes, I could." So she gave me some messages, which of course don't need to be on the internet. You know how we do here, we respect spirit. So she just wanted to talk and socialize, and she said something that kind of threw me off. She said, "I completely forgive my mom. I know that she was in a tough spot, and I know that it wasn't her fault." I was like, wow. I don't know that I could, if I were in the same situation, I don't know that I could forgive my mom, So I thought that was pretty cool. So I went on and said, you said that your mom was in a tough spot. Do you know anything specific, concerning that? And she said, yes. She claims that her stepdad told her mom what happened. And he basically told her that if she decided to say anything or to leave him, that she and the other kids would end up the same way. So, nice guy, huh? And obviously he's continued to be a nice guy. Yeah. So I asked her if she knew what had happened to her. She said, all I know is that he grabbed me and he was choking me and he was shaking me. And that's the last thing I remember. She said she did see, like a little while later, he put her in a garbage bag, and he put her in some kind of container in the garage. And then that container ended up being transported, but she has no idea where she is. She's not sure why, but she feels that she's in the water. She has no clue where. Okay, so then she went on to talk about that she learned to forgive her stepdad. And she said he better prepare himself because when he dies, he's not going to like where he's going. I was like, I think she was probably one of the chattiest spirits I've ever communicated with. She told me a lot about her sister and her brothers. And I asked her because, years later, her brothers each gave different answers. For one said he looked through a crack in her door and she was sitting there on the floor and he said goodbye. And the other one said he hugged her. And she said she didn't remember any of that. So I basically said, if you are able to figure out where your stepfather buried you, you need to get in touch with me and let me know. It would be nice if her sister had some closure, and her mom. It's like she said, she forgives her mom. She understands her mom was in a tough position. Her mom was being threatened. She understands, and she said, that's the other thing. She talked about how horrible her stepdad was, how abusive he was, not just to her, not just to her sister, not to, her brothers, but her mom. He was just horrible. You always like to hope that maybe at some point a lightning bulb will hit and this horrible person will confess their sins and try to become a better person. But apparently Charles, Chucky boy, has no intention of that. You guys, I say this all the time, just another sad case. This didn't need to happen, It just, these cases really get to me. I was so glad I was able to connect with her because she was just so bubbly and like a teenager and vibrant and happy, and it made my heart feel good, even though she went through a bunch of hell, she's in a good place now. She doesn't have to deal with her dumbass stepfather ever again. And again, I hope her stepfather sees the light, because how you are in life is how you are in death, Okay, guys, it's a shitty night here. Thus the hair situation. It's rainy and stormy. I think the storm stopped though. They're calling for like tornadoes and it's supposed to be really windy and shitty. So I hope wherever you are in the world that you're doing good, and be nice, be kind, stay safe, stay healthy, be happy. And I hope everything's good in your neck of the woods. That about does it for me. Bye, guys.